So now that the changing of the guard in the United States has occurred, now it is time for us to do our own election cycle mayhem meltdown. Because as you know, 2025 is set to be in October the election of Prime Minister here in Canada. And considering the resignation of Justin Trudeau just in the past couple of weeks, now the Liberal Party is scrambling to find a replacement for Justin Trudeau. We have already seen Mark Carney enter his name into the race, and now we're seeing another familiar face. Not really a good familiar face, or horrific, as you're about to see, enter her name as well into this competition. And ladies and gentlemen, I kind of suspected this, and this is part of my, 2025 prediction. But finance minister Chrystia Freeland is running to replace Trudeau as Canadian Prime Minister, at least the temporary Prime Minister, until there's an actual election happening. We don't even know if that's even going to occur because the tricks that the Liberal Party and the NDP and the rest of the parliamentarian have up their sleeve uh, is subjectable to whatever is going to happen with this election cycle. What's going to happen in the fall? Are they going to change the date to, reassure their pensions? God only knows. God only knows. And us Canadians are left out in the dark. So Chrystia Freeland, whose abrupt resignation as finance minister last month forced Justin Trudeau's exit as prime minister, she said she is running to be the next leader of the Liberal Party and Prime Minister of Canada. Freeland said Friday in a statement posted on X that she will officially launch her campaign on Sunday. She also released an opinion piece which is called for economic retaliation if United States President-elect Donald Trump follows through with his tariff to impose tariffs on all Canadian products. If President Trump imposes 25% tariffs, our counterpunch must be dollar for dollar, and it must be precisely and painfully targeted, Freeland wrote in the Toronto Star. Again, she's one of these idiotic, insane psychopaths that rather than actually negotiating with the big boss and talking like a grown-ass adult, which we saw with Daniel Smith, she's going to roll out another pathetic counterpunch that's just going to slap her in the face. It's like one of those cartoons where you see the fist going out and then you realize the arm's coming back this way. That's what's happening, folks. This tariff war is doing this. You think it's going to punch out to the other neighboring country, but boom, it's going to affect you. Florida orange growers, Michigan dishwasher manufacturers, and Wisconsin dairy farmers, brace yourself. Canada's America's largest export market, bigger than China, Japan, the UK, and France combined. If pushed, our response will be the single largest trade blow to the U.S. economy has ever endured, she added. Freeland announced a resignation from Trudeau's cabinet on December 16th, criticizing some of Trudeau's economic priorities in the face of Trump's tariff threats. The move stunned the country and raised questions about how much longer the increasingly unpopular Trudeau could stay in this job. Trudeau announced on January 6th that he would resign, though he will remain prime minister until a new Liberal Party leader is chosen on May 9th. Still a lot of time between now and then, depending on when you're watching this. The front runners for the Liberal Party leadership are Freeland and former Bank of England Governor Mark Carney. The next Liberal leader could be the short tenured prime minister in the country's history. All three opposition parties have vowed to bring down the Liberals' minority government in a non-confidence vote after Parliament resumes on March 24th. An election is expected this spring. That's another toss-up in the recent polls suggest the Liberals' chances of winning the next election look slim. In the latest poll by Nanos Research, the Liberals trailed the opposition Conservatives 47% to 20%. Trudeau announced his resignation on January 6th after losing both support within his own party and the country. The political upheaval comes at a difficult moment for Canada. Trump keeps calling Canada the 51st state and has threatened to impose 25% tariffs on all Canadian goods. Trudeau told Freeland last month he no longer wanted her to serve as finance minister, but that she can remain deputy prime minister and appoint a person for U.S. Canadian relations. Freeland resigned shortly after and released a scathing letter about the government that proved to be the last straw for the embattled leader. Chrystia has been by my side for the close to 10 years now. She has been an incredible political partner through just about everything we have done as a government, as a party over the last decade, Trudeau said when he announced his resignation. Yeah, I can think of no better person to uphandedly freeze bank accounts than Chrystia Freeland. I can think of no better person than the granddad, than the granddaughter of a grandfather who went and served as a Nazi propagandist for one of the largest publications during World War II and massacred a bunch of Jewish and Polish citizens. I can think of no better person to institute fascism than the granddaughter of a Nazi family. I can think of no person better. An official close to Freeland said she resigned because the prime minister had lost confidence in her. The official spoke on condition of anonymity and were not authorized to speak publicly on the matter. As she resigned, Trump called Freeland totally toxic and not at all conducive to making deals. Freeland was Canada's point person when the U.S., Canada, and Mexico redid its free trade deal during the first Trump administration. Yeah, and that's literally all we have to do. That's literally all we have to do. And unfortunately, Freeland is not the person to do that because, as you recall, when they did the USMCA agreement, we got the short end of the stick because we didn't have someone strong enough to make a competitive argument for the case of Canada. That's what Daniel Smith is doing. That's what Daniel Smith is going to Mar-a-Lago and talking to Trump directly to make an argument for Canada. That's what all this entails. But you have Freeland at the helm. She's not going to be able to make a strong enough deal. She's not going to make a strong enough case, which is why we get the short end of the stick, which is why all this rhetoric, the fact that she's trying to punch back and say, we're going to go dollar to dollar on this, makes it even worse. Makes this situation even worse than it needs to be. Freeland and Trudeau have disagreed about two recently announced policies: a temporary sales tax holiday on goods ranging from children's clothes to beer, and plans to send every citizen a check for $250 Canadian. Freeland, who was deputy prime minister, said Canada could not afford costly political gimmicks. Funny how she mentions it then, actually helping Canadians, but she doesn't say that about Ukraine spending. She doesn't say that about Israel spending. She doesn't say about the luxury vacations that her and Trudeau have been on. She doesn't mention about the condo, the New York City condo we gave to one of our MPs. What about those costly gimmicks? Apparently we had the money for that, but not the money to make sure groceries are affordable and maybe during the holidays we provide a temporary measure. Which all this could have been avoided if we just got rid of the carbon tax, which she is a component of. She is a huge supporter of this outrageous carbon tax, which nobody in the working class Canadian sphere really agrees on. And they haven't agreed with it for the last 3 years since it's been introduced. But Freeland herself has been criticized for Canada's growing deficit when she was finance minister, when the Liberal government became deeply unpopular with voters over a range of issues, including the soaring cost of food and housing, as well as the surging immigration. And that was one of the things that we mentioned about why she resigned, is because Chrystia Freeland, being financial minister, did not release the economic statement. She didn't do it back in the fall. She waited until December, and then at that moment, she called for a resignation. At that precise moment, called for a resignation when she was supposed to deliver the economic statement. Why would that be the case? Well, now she's not held responsible for the enormous amount of debts that part of her and the rest of the Trudeau administration have put upon us. Now she's no longer held responsible. Oh, no. I'm not the finance minister anymore. I'm not deputy prime minister, so that's on you, pal. It's all on you. It's like a game of hot potato. Now everybody's taking blame for each other, and as soon as someone gets blamed for it, they resign. And they pass to the next person. Then they resign. Then it passes to the next person. So here's Chrystia Freeland at a rally for herself. I don't know exactly where exactly this place, but here is her openly stating, and this is an actual rally. This is not a sketch, which I thought was a comedy bit at first, but this is what she said at a campaign rally announcing her term into running for the leader of the Liberal Party and potentially short-term prime minister. Listen to this.
You're ready to fight, aren't you? I can feel it. That is so great. That is so, so great. We are ready to fight, aren't we? Yeah. And so, with your help, we are going to fight.
That is incredible. That is incredible. That's Chrystia Freeland, Deputy Prime Minister, former Finance Minister. Her announcement to running for short-term Prime Minister and leader of the Liberal Party. We're gonna fight. We're gonna fight. And then we're gonna fight some more. And then fight, fight, fight. I don't think that message would even work if you're running for president of the cheerleading association in your high school. What are we going to do? We're going to fight. And then we're going to fight. And then we're going to fight again. Oh my God. This is how embarrassing this has to be. How embarrassing this has to be. And I apologize to our foreign viewers in America and beyond to witness something like this. I just want to show it again because it's hilarious.
You're ready to fight, aren't you? I can feel it. I can feel it. That is so great. That is so, so great. We are ready to fight, aren't we?
Oh, God.
And so, with your help, we are going to fight.
Oh my God. Is that the new, are we going to experience our Kamala Harris moment? The time has been, but the time has not been for the time has been. Is that one of those things? We have been, what was our famous saying? We have not been burdened by what has been. That was a Kamala phrase. That was a Kamalaism. I don't even remember at this point. It's a blur. I feel like every one of her statements is now going to be, we're going to fight. And then we're going to fight again. And then with your help, we're going to fight. Yeah. Yeah. Terrible. But there's more to this. So here's another clip of the same rally where, again, it makes it more of an embarrassment on her. An embarrassment for this country. Because this is the predominant figures that are going to apparently lead to a greater future after the disparaging, horrific administration that we have been enduring for the last over almost a decade now and still continue to deal with.
Look, Donald Trump doesn't like me for one simple reason. I have been fierce, resolute, and effective in defending Canada, in defending Canadians, and in defending the Canadian economy, in negotiations with the United States, in negotiations with his administration.
So she's stating that She needs to run for short-term prime minister because she's fierce against Trump. Trump hates her because apparently she's good at negotiating. Well, as we saw with the last trade deal, the USMCA, she's not. And then she also says she's defending Canadians. As we saw with the Freedom Convoy and the truckers, she is not. She's fiercely against Canadians. She's against the solidarity of Canadians. She's against the unification of people of all walks of life gathering together to stand up against her tyranny, stand up against her authoritarian measures. So, no, she has no interest in serving Canada, but she has the interest of being a representative of the global elites, being a representative of the WEF, where she claims from, and being partial with that, being partial with Big Pharma, being partial with all the other big contribution campaign donors to screw over more Canadians. And that's why her campaign message is so bland and just so empty and so vague. Fight! Give me some money, and together we'll fight! Fight! Donald Trump is scared of me. That's why I'm gonna scream like a coward and tell him, oh yeah, I'm gonna match those tariffs. I'm gonna pull my own punches. This is so embarrassing. This is so absolutely embarrassing.
Look, Donald Trump doesn't like me for one simple reason. I have been fierce, resolute, and effective in defending Canada, in defending Canadians, and in defending the Canadian economy, in negotiations with the United States, in negotiations with his administration. He doesn't like that.
You invoked, along with Trudeau, unconstitutional policies to demonize Canadians. You were responsible for freezing bank accounts of people. Freezing bank accounts of people that were at the Freedom Convoy and anyone else that contributed to the convoy. You openly did that. And you laughed about it. You giggled about it. You openly did that. How the hell do people trust you to defend Canada when Canadians gather together to defend Canada and you mauled them down? You completely demonized the entire population of Canada, taking part of a peaceful movement to go against authoritarian measures. And here you are making the argument that, oh, I'm such a fierce fighter against Trump. I defended Canadians, okay? Okay? That's why you gotta come all together and we're gonna fight. We're gonna fight. In the most childish way possible. Like schoolyard. Pathetic. Cowardism. So then she goes on. This is another point that Chrystia Freeland said about Pierre Poilievre. That's going to be her competition. So CP24 says, Chrystia Freeland says Pierre Poilievre will sell Canada out to Donald Trump. So she's making the argument. She's making the argument that she's a fierce competitor against Donald Trump and that she's going to throw all the other politicians under the bus, saying that they're going to sell out to Donald Trump, even though we know that Pierre Poilievre has specifically stated he is not going to fold to Donald Trump. He's not going to accept Canada as a 51st state. He is going to make a compelling argument to sell to Donald Trump, to pitch to him, and work out a negotiation. He was the one that wanted to renegotiate the USMCA trade deal, which is what we should be doing. That's what we should be doing instead of all this crap. But nobody apparently has the maturity or the span to even implement that. You get these bumbling idiots that think, oh, well, you're going to do that, so I'm going to do that. Making these pathetic, stupid remarks. That's just making this into an entire circus. It feels like being in a soap opera. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely insane. And here's to remind people that It was her and Trudeau vowing to freeze anti-mandate protesters' bank accounts. So when she's stating that she's fighting for Canadians, just note this is what she was doing to help Canadians. This is how she defends Canada. That if you were peacefully protesting against horrific mandates, that medical tyranny was tearing this country apart, and people were defiant enough to unify together in a peaceful demonstration to go against that, he went all ballistic on you. He cracked down on your bank accounts. He brought the RCMP to crack the heads of those peaceful protesters. He called for censorship tactics. He's the one that's enforcing all these horrific constituents to make everything digitized so they can mass surveil, so they can crack down, so they can take control of your financial assets. That was all under her. That's all under her and Mark Carney. And they're trying to make the argument that they have the best minds and best spirits to defend Canada. And that Donald Trump hates her because, oh, she's a fighter. No, Donald Trump hates you like the same way most Canadians hate you, is because you are a shill to globalism. You don't protect Canada, you go against Canada. And your record, time and time, shows the exact opposite of what you're preaching. She was the one that just recently, before she resigned, telling people how much of a luxury it is to buy rotisserie chicken. I kid you not. Oh, you should be fortunate that we gave you this temporary tax pause during the holiday so you could buy rotisserie chicken. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Now, who are we going to thank when the spring comes around and groceries are going to be 5 times more? Who do we thank then? Who do we thank then? You? Because, please, sir. Please, ma'am. Can we get some food for our families? He has no intention of serving the people of Canada. And that is why when Donald Trump, despite his conviction, despite him and his personality, at least is willing to reason and negotiate and is actually interested in the prosperity of Canadians. And that is why people like Daniel Smith, among all the other premiers, is one of the only vocal voices to actually defend Canadians and defend the interests of Canada, being that she's from Alberta, and Alberta is home to our energy infrastructure. And if we lose the energy infrastructure of Canada, that's a huge loss to this country. That's a huge loss to this country. Whereas Chrystia Freeland is not doing that. Chrystia Freeland dukes out with Daniel Smith in Alberta, and she makes it even worse for that province. So, no wonder why Daniel Smith has to be last resort to actually defend Canada. Whereas her and Mark Carney have no intention to.